let's get to my thoughts on game one and game two of the NBA Finals. And I got to be honest with you, I have never seen anything quite like the 2024 2025 Indiana Pacers, the number four seed in the Eastern Conference, with a superstar that I want to call a superstar in Tyrese Haliburton. But I'll be honest, I don't know if I can because he has weird games like game two last night, 5 points for 3 quarters, like game three against Cleveland in the second round, where he had 4 points, like game five against the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, where he had 8 points. And the weirdest thing about Tyrese Haliburton is it's all based off whether he makes his first shot or not. If you look at his stats, when he makes his first shot versus when he misses his first shot, when he misses, his points per game drop by over seven. His 3 point percentage drops dramatically by double digits. His field goal percentage drops by about 8 points. And he gets weirdly passive and unconfident. And when he does see that ball go for the basket for the first time, then he starts to shoot more. It's one of the weirdest attacks and one of the weirdest strategies I've ever seen. And I've been calling this Indiana Pacers run, unlike the Miami Heat run, in my opinion, in 2023, because that team with Max Strus and Caleb Martin and Kyle Lowry, Gabe Vincent, Jimmy Butler, they took down Milwaukee. They took down the Knicks. Or excuse me, or was it the Hawks? I can't recall. I think it was Atlanta. They took down Boston. And they did so. I mean, they just frankly beat them in multiple games. The Pacers obviously came back down 8 against Milwaukee, came back down 9 against Cleveland. Obviously their comeback in game one down double digits to the New York Knicks, and then again in game one down by 15 entering the fourth quarter of game one against OKC. And this is what I said about this Indiana Pacer team in this series against Oklahoma City. I did not think the Thunder were going to allow the Pacers to make a comeback like that. But all of a sudden, Oklahoma City, they get really stagnant late offensively. They weirdly decided to put in Case and Wallace, over Isaiah Hartenstein in the starting lineup when Indiana went big. That did not work out for them. They were tremendously out rebounded in game one. And yet again, the Pacers needed a Lou Dort wide open miss three, who he was red hot from outside all night long. They needed a lane violation on the Andrew Nembhard free throw. They needed SGA to miss a clear cut mid range jumper, which he's been missing all night long, with little to no defense, to once again allow Tyrese Haliburton to come down and hit a mid range jumper for the win. We've seen it against the Bucks. We've seen it against the Cavs. We've seen it against the Knicks. Now we see it against Oklahoma City. And in my opinion, that game right there changed the series from a potential sweep by Oklahoma City to it probably at least going 6 games. I expect Indiana. I actually think they played horrible in game two on Sunday night. They didn't come out with any energy. First quarter was pretty even. Then once Tyrese Haliburton came out of the game, and in my opinion, inexplicably, got benched essentially by Rick Carlisle for 6, 7 minutes. Oklahoma City goes on that big, what was it, 17-2 run, something like that. The lean balloons up to 12, and it's essentially ball game from there. And I thought Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein especially had a real dominating night on the glass, and Pascal Siakam struggled for the most part. And I thought the Thunder did to the Pacers in game two on Sunday night what I thought they would do to the Pacers in game one on Thursday night. But all of a sudden, here we are in game three, and what we've seen with the Indiana Pacers and Tyrese Haliburton specifically is they do have these bad games, but they always bounce back. And so I expect the Thunder to be ready. I expect game three to be a very close contest. I am actually leaning now towards Indiana probably winning game three. I think they'll go up 2-1, and then we will get the presumable swing game in game four, which is what we saw with the Thunder T-Wolf series in the Western Conference Finals. It's also what we saw with the Pacers Knicks series in the Eastern Conference Finals. which is for both Oklahoma City and Indiana. They were up 2 games to 1. And the question was, could the Knicks and T-Wolves make it a series, or are both these teams going to go up 3-1? Both those teams went up 3-1, and obviously it was over in six. I don't think we're going to get a game 7 out of this series. So I do think, if it is, Indiana winning game 3, I think would give us more of a chance to get to a game 7 than Oklahoma City winning game 3, in my opinion. I do kind of feel like, my original prediction was OKC in 5. I feel like it could be OKC in 6 now. Again, it really depends on how the game 3 and game 4 go. If it is 2-2, but Oklahoma City wins game 4, then we're having a different conversation than it being 2-2 and Indiana wins game 4, because Indiana would have momentum on their side going back to OKC as opposed to OKC going back home and obviously losing momentum or gaining it, whichever way game 4 would go. So I think SGA overall is the best player in the series. Again, I have struggled with Tyrese Haliburton. I've struggled with these Indiana Pacers because I watch them and they don't play well for 47, minutes and 58 points or 59.7, however you want to call it, 47 and 59.7, and they have the lead in game 1 for zero point 0.3 seconds and they win the game. It's almost like they're being rewarded for being out up for just hanging in there, and they know eventually their conditioning and their willingness, and obviously a guy like Aaron Neesmith who somehow gets hot in every close game in the fourth quarter, and just their bench depth and all that is going to come through. I think the Thunder have as much bench depth as Indiana, as teams like Cleveland and the New York Knicks. Though we thought Cleveland did have as good a bench depth as Indiana, that was obviously not the case. So I look at it again. The Thunder, they're historically great. They have not lost 4 out of 7 in any regard this season. They very rarely lose back-to-back games. SGA has played like the MVP of the regular season in this finals. I think if Oklahoma City wins it, he will clearly be the finals MVP. For Indiana right now, you can make an argument the best player this series for them has been Miles Turner or Aaron Neesmith, which is a bad sign for them. Tyrese Haliburton has to be their best player. And again, after these playoffs, I always rank my top 10 players, after the playoffs, and I compare it to where they were pre-playoffs because things do change, because I take the playoffs into a lot of weight and now I think of NBA players. Tyrese Haliburton was not even in my top 10 entering these playoffs, and he's certainly going to be in my top 10 now, but I struggle with where to rank him because he has these weird games of disappearing acts where he just doesn't show up at all. And then he'll have a game where he'll come out and he'll score 30, 33 points and he'll have complete control of the game and he'll be close to a triple double and, he'll play like a superstar and he'll be like the face of the Indiana Pacers. So, again, my overall thoughts on game 1 and game 2, which by the way, I think the NBA, part of the reason why game 1 had record low ratings outside of 2020 and 2021, it's not just the small markets, it's not just Pacers Thunder, it's that the NBA, we talked about for years how baseball had no idea to market its stars. It's actually the opposite now. MLB is marketing its stars, and the NBA has no idea how to market its next generation of athletes. Tyrese Haliburton, SGA, they're barely getting the paper clippings. The ESPN halftime show is a complete joke. It's not even worth watching. It's why I complained. It's why I thought that the NBA actually should have dropped ESPN from its media rights deal. You guys know my thoughts on ESPN and their coverage of not only the NBA but other sports as well. I would have loved to see TNT stay with NBC and with Amazon, and we have a new era in the NBA that way. The fact that there's no finals trophy physically painted on the court and they're going to put a YouTube TV ad there virtually, and oh, in game 2 we added the finals trophy virtually on the court. Yeah, it doesn't do it for me. Again, NBA, you talk about, you're getting beat to death by the NFL on Christmas Day ratings. You talk about the fact that nobody's watching your sport. Yada, yada, yada. You're doing all this complaining, and yet you're doing nothing to advertise the fact that these are the next generation. This is the young stars. This could be 2 of the next potential dynasties in the NBA, and the Pacers and the Thunder. And Adam Silver is on here talking about embracing the small market. Well, NBA, you have not embraced the small market because you have refused to embrace these stars, to market them, to make this feel like a big deal. If a casual fan that did not watch basketball, that, only turns on ABC and watches the big games, they wouldn't know better. They woke up from a coma. If this was a June 5th, 2025 NBA Finals Game 1, or if this was a random January 5th, 2025 Thursday night primetime basketball game in January. Um, and so that's why these finals have felt underwhelming. Again, I think the lack of dynasties, I think the lack of super teams hurt the NBA personally. The NBA is the sport of stars. The NBA is the sport of getting guys to team up, and it is the sport of villains. And we want to see villains, we want to root against villains, and we want to root for heroes. And the Oklahoma City Thunder are not a villain yet. The Indiana Pacers are not a villain, and neither of them are heroes. Maybe if Oklahoma City somehow loses this series to Indiana and the Pacers have the biggest upset, in my opinion, and potentially the history of the NBA Finals, I think it would be bigger than what Rick Carlisle's Mavericks did with Dirk Nowitzki to the Heatles in 2011. Because Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Kidd, Jason Terry, you could say Sean Marion, you could say they had dogs on that team, and obviously Dirk Nowitzki was one of the best, if not the best, outside of Tim Duncan, power forward in the history of the NBA at that point in time. Tyrese Haliburton is nowhere close to being a top 10 point guard of all time. So that's where I say the line is drawn. And also that Miami Heat team was not historically great in terms of records like Oklahoma City was this regular season. So that's why I say this would be a monumental upset. And the reason why I say a monumental upset could be good for the NBA because it could get us a villain if Oklahoma City decides to go out and nab a Kevin Durant or somebody like that, bring Durant back to Oklahoma City, let him be the one to be the number two next to SGA and help bring the Thunder their first championship in franchise history. Like that clip from the Brand's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World podcast right here on YouTube.